Morning Grind with Pork Rinds.
Welcome to the show.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome into the Morning Rant. What's up, North Georgia? Good to see you right here once again on another week. We are live and ready to roll with our Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. Thanks for being with us. Again, we'll be on the air till 11 o'clock today, leading up to Chuck Oliver, who's going to have a lot of college football news, some spring practice news in the world of college football. A lot of things, of course, going on, and again, we're gonna talk a little bit about that stuff later on as well. A lot of things going on, of course, this past weekend. What a weekend, man. Wing and Rock Fest now in the books, but just a fantastic weekend. Saturday and Sunday, we were there all weekend long, enjoying the music, the tribute bands all weekend. We had, again, wings, barbecue, pizza, you name it, a little bit of everything. It was almost impossible, I think, to go home hungry. If you went home hungry, then shame on you. But again, the wing flavors, man, there were 24 different wing establishments that were at this thing over the weekend. And again, it was a lot of fun. The weather was absolutely gorgeous. Yesterday on Sunday was basically a carbon copy of the day on Saturday. And, I didn't realize with all the allergies in the air, like until yesterday when we broke down all the tents and tables, we got ready to leave yesterday evening, and you saw all the dust and pollen kind of go off everything, and it's like, man, I've been breathing that all weekend. So again, I'm feeling it a little bit this morning right here on a Monday morning. I'm joined by two-time Georgia Tech All-American and Buffalo Bill and former Gilmer High Bobcat, representing here today with the Gilmer Bobcat pullover, John Davis, back with us right here on a Monday. How you doing, partner?
I'm doing great, Dave. How you doing, pal?
Good, man. You're looking good, man. You're rocking that Gilmer hoodie this morning here. So, we always tend to wear a lot of our area high school merch. So, I want to encourage all of the schools out there. Anybody, if you want to bring us a hoodie or a T-shirt or a hat, hey man, we'll rep it right here. I know we've worn, during the state basketball championships, we had Creekview on. We've had some different hoodies on here. I think Darren sported a Fannin County hoodie before and gotten a lot of comments about that. But yeah, man, John, we're in the purple today, partner. I like it.
Got to represent them. Represent them.
Yeah, absolutely. You had the opportunity to join me for a little bit there on Saturday for the Wing and Rock Fest, and obviously got to talk to you and your lovely wife. And what did you think of all that craziness going on?
We planned on getting there a little bit early, but besides sitting in traffic for 45 minutes, it was great. I couldn't believe the attendance. Of course, I've never been to one of those before, but no, it was a lot of fun. We happened to get there right before the wing eating contest, and that was a lot of fun to watch on Saturday. So, but no, it looked like it was very well attended, and just a lot of arts and crafts and food, all over the place. But we got out of there before we indulged a whole lot. So, once I get started on wings, it's hard for me to stop.
Man, I tell you, there were some out there this weekend that were just absolutely phenomenal. The one, and I don't know if you remember, if you got to see any of these yesterday. Sunday was the day that they revealed all the winners, right? So they had. Okay. They had People's Choice revealed. They had the overall. Apparently, they had like 15 different professional, quote unquote, professional wing judges. I don't know if they actually were or not, but that's how it was advertised. So we'll roll with it. But again, they had 15 folks that were judging all the different wings from the different establishments. And I think the overall winner was a group out of Memphis that brought a big trailer, and there were a bunch of them that brought the big setups. Yeah, serious stuff. And so again, they ended up winning it, and then they also had a best sauce competition as well. I know that there were a lot of traditional and non-traditional places. I mean, one of the folks that was there was Hooters. I mean, Hooters they were in the competition, and they were, I believe, runner-up with the sauce. So again, Hooters sauce pretty popular. So they, you had a lot of I guess what we would say mom and pop type outfits, maybe those one-off type restaurants that pull the trailers, that do the mobile thing. Some of those are the absolute best. And then you did have some chains out there. The People's Choice champion was actually a roofing company. There was a roofing company that was out there cooking wings all weekend, and they had a white buffalo sauce wing that was absolutely fantastic. And I think that's the one that ended up winning the fan vote, if you will, yesterday. But one of the other places, and I wanted to bring this up because, man, this totally ties into you and your past with Buffalo, is the Anchor Bar. And a lot of people don't realize the Anchor Bar provided the wings for the wing eating competition both days. They were also the sponsor of that segment of the show each day. But the Anchor Bar in Kennesaw, the original home of the buffalo wing, originated in Buffalo, New York, at a place called the Anchor Bar. And the Anchor Bar created the first ever buffalo wing. That's why it has the name Buffalo Wing attached to it. Well, that was many years ago, obviously, but since then, in the last 10 years or so, 15 years, they've started to franchise these things out. And they actually opened one down in Kennesaw, down at Town Center Mall area. So you walk in there, and, I mean, there's Buffalo Bill signed jerseys, merch everywhere, and it's also a Georgia Bulldog hangout too. So, when football season rolls around, place is a madhouse. I mean, trying to get in there. But again, I'm going to try to figure out a way to tie in like a little bit of a sponsorship, I think, with you, man, get you in there. So
yeah, exactly. No, it's, and I used to, or last year I went to a couple of the games there when Buffalo was playing, and was able to meet a lot of the Bills fans in the areas and everything. And, the Anchor Bar is it's a destination in Buffalo. They obviously do have great wings, but, it's kind of, I kind of tell people when it comes to like either wings or barbecue or ribs or anything like that, it's hard for me to judge because at the end of the day, it all comes down to the sauce.
Right.
And it just depends on what you like.
It really is.
My uncle made a sauce for barbecue that people would drive 2 hours to eat at our restaurant and just have that.
Yeah.
And, I made my own little sauce, a little hot sauce that I got a little recipe on. But I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to the sauce. And you just have to, you just have to make a decision on, I think it's whatever your palate will enjoy more than anything else.
I think so too. The sauce makes it. That's one of the things I'm a big fan now. Selfishly, I'll tell you, I do love a good bash night, at a Buffalo's or something like that. I mean, some of if you're talking about just normal chain establishments, but some of the sauces there are what make the wing. It's not so much the wing. It's the sauce, like you said. Right. And so again, I mean, when you look at that competition this past weekend, I mean, man, the sauces were unreal, and that's why I think that, this thing is so popular. It's technically the one that we were at, by the way, it was at Etowah River Park in Canton, in case you missed out, in Canton, Georgia. But we had folks, we had listeners from Rome, Calhoun, different places come and visit us over the course of the weekend, so it was awesome. And it was a really neat event. I mean, there were a lot of other things going on. I mean, a farmer's market, arts and crafts. They had a whole kid area. There was a pet and zoo. So, yeah, man, there was a little bit of everything for everyone. The best part, obviously we were set up. The Sports Pig tent was set up right off the side of the stage. We were kind of the unofficial sign-up area, I guess we really were the official sign-up area for the wing eating contest, but we were also giving out some other promotions and things that the organizers had as well. So we were a popular tent over the course of the weekend. And then our sister station, 101.1 The Pulse, broadcasted live both days throughout the afternoon, and we were facing out towards the front, so we had a big presence there, with the parking lot and people walking up. So, yeah, it was a great time. Man, I appreciate you being there, man. It was good seeing you. And so, hopefully we'll do a lot more of that kind of stuff as we continue on here.
The weather was fantastic. It wasn't hot. It was nice. The music was great. I mean, just the whole smell. It's just what you would expect a wing fest or a festival to be like.
Yeah, and that's what you want right there, man. You definitely want to have professional judging. You want to have some professional setups there, and that's exactly what we got. Some great weather there. Hey, a lot of stuff to talk about, and I don't want time to get away from us because this is going to be a busy episode of the Monday morning quarterback segment, brought to you by your friends at Foundation Wealth in Dalton. Check out Joel, again, Eric and Dakota, and all the folks at Foundation Foundation Wealth in Dalton. They do business a little differently than most people do, and I would encourage you to go by there, go see them off of South Thornton Avenue in Dalton. Tell them we sent you, and just trust me on this one. I tell you, these guys will definitely take care of you. They are certified financial planners, and they do a great job of giving back in the local community. March Madness, a lot of things going on. Atlanta Braves spring training opening day on Friday. We're going to talk a little bit, about that, some of those other things. But we don't have Big John on here to talk about baseball. We don't have Big John on here to talk about, curling and Olympic hockey. Although I know he has some opinions about those things. We got Big John on here to talk about football because, hey, man, that's what it's all about. That's what they want to hear Big John talk about. But now you and I were talking, and we'll talk about this on the other side of the break too, but this Fanatics flag football, we'll dive into some real football here in a little bit, but this Fanatics flag football tournament that took place this weekend was kind of a showcase with Team USA, which is the actual flag football team that is not made up of NFL and pro players, taking on guys that are NFL players. You might have seen Tom Brady, and you had some celebrities like Logan Paul and different people kind of mixed in there as well. The Kevin Harts of the world kind of goofing off on the sideline. But for the most part, man, yeah, I mean, it was Joe Burrow, man. It was Jalen Hurts. Tom Brady was out there slinging it around. Odell Beckham, Tyreek Hill. And, I just kind of want to get your initial thought on that and to see if you kind of followed any of that over the weekend.
Well, once again, I'm a little bit behind the eight ball on it. I didn't really watch any of it because I didn't understand what was really going on until this morning. And I was watching
me and you too, both, brother. Yeah.
Yeah, and watching ESPN and did not even realize it was an Olympic sport, coming up.
Coming up, yeah.
I see a lot of good and a lot of bad, especially if you want to include the NFL. I think that's something else that Roger Goodell's probably got his hands in.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah.
Promote. Yeah. I also see, and we'll talk about it later, I also see a lot of owners and a lot of GMs kind of nixing it because, you're not paying these guys peanuts anymore.
Right.
And to have them go out, all it takes is stepping into a hole or twisting the wrong way, and you're done.
Yeah.
And so We'll see how that all pans out.
That was the biggest thing I thought about is like, okay, that there's a reason why they don't play the Pro Bowl the way they play the Pro Bowl anymore, and just the risk of injury and with so much on the line with these contracts and things like that, it makes you wonder, like, did they have to get a release somehow to be able to play, in this tournament or what have you? So again, very interesting take right there for sure. Hey, we're going to continue this conversation on the other side of the break. Talk a little bit more about what we saw this weekend. We will touch on some March Madness because, hey, even Big John has a bracket out there, and so we'll touch on that a little bit. A lot going on, of course, over the weekend. We are the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. We are the Sports Pig on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
We bring the heat. You bring the trash talk.
Come on, man. Are you serious?
It's the Morning Rant, live on the Sports Pig app and sportspigradio.com.
And welcome back to the Morning Rant. This is the fastest hour in sports talk radio right here on the dial at 98.1, 93.7, 101.1 on the HD2 channel, and also on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com. John, I like to think that we picked up a few extra listeners this weekend at this Wing and Rock Fest because they average, that we were talking about it, of course, to start the show off here today. That festival averages around 20,000 people a year over the course of the weekend. And I can't imagine, with the weather being the way it was, everybody kind of being bottled up last weekend and through the week because the weather got cold again, that they didn't hit that number, if not more, this year. And we had a lot of folks, of course, come by the Sports Pig tent. A lot of people from out of town or what have you saying, hey, what is this? Like, what is the Sports Pig? Right. Hey, man, I'm glad you asked. We laid it on them. I had the opportunity to MC some of it on stage and, definitely threw it out there a little bit. So I know we definitely had some new folks that downloaded the app. One of the guys that I met was from Nashville area, and he actually followed around one of the headlining bands, and they play a lot of different concerts all over the place, and so he was a big sports fan, said he downloaded it. Ran into a lot of sports fans over the weekend that follow different teams. I said, hey, man, give us a listen because we talk about it all right here, man. Had a suffering Raiders fan come by the booth, I think, while you were there, John, on Saturday, and was like, take it easy on us, man. There's just a glimmer of hope for my Vegas Raiders now. So, well, I said you got the A's following you back there as well, so I don't know how good that'll be. But nonetheless, man, we try to cover it all right here on the Morning Rant. Appreciate you guys listening in Monday through Friday. A lot of different ways to listen to the program. Of course, our social media. Sports Pig is on Facebook and Twitter. The Morning Rant on Instagram, and full video episodes on YouTube. And also, something else I keep forgetting to throw out there, too. You can listen to this in podcast format on Podbean, Spotify. It's loaded up pretty much daily. So, again, wherever you listen to your podcast when you're in your car, you don't have to flip it away if you don't want to download the app or whatever. I get it, but you can listen to this show a lot of different ways, and so we encourage you to do that. You can also go to our homepage at sportspigradio.com and pull up the daily podcast version of the show as well, as we welcome you back here on a Monday morning quarterback edition of the program. Dave Garner alongside John Davis. Again, Big John in with you till 11 o'clock this morning. We were talking before the break, John, about the Fanatics football tournament, and I guess it was last year. There was the quarterback for Team USA, a guy by the name of Darryl Doucette, I believe, was the one that boldly came out and said, "I'm a better flag football quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. Like I'm better than him." And everybody was like, "Yeah, right. What are you talking about here?" And I'm not going to say that, he proved some people wrong this weekend or what have you, but I will say that Team USA, I will say this. I've been in some flag football tournaments. Flag football is a lot different, than traditional football. For one, you really don't have the trenches, which I know you're very much about the trenches. I mean, it is a much different game. It's played a lot differently. And so I'm not saying that this, Darryl Doucette and some of these other guys on Team USA proved people wrong necessarily this weekend, but I will say it is a different brand of football. And for the other teams that were stacked with NFL talent, they were unable to beat Team USA. Team USA made it through 3-0, I believe, in pool play, or it was kind of a round-robin type thing. So I think there are some people that kind of looked at this guy as a clown, for making some of these statements he did last year. But I think that when you're looking at the Olympics, this is kind of a lead-up, because it is going to be an Olympic sport. Flag football is, men and women. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe Team USA, maybe these guys that do play flag football, there's a reason why they're not playing, in the NFL. But there's a reason why maybe the NFL guys maybe shouldn't be playing in the flag either. I don't know. But nonetheless, Team USA with a great showing beat all the team with all the other NFL guys on it.
Well, and look, they're all athletes. So it's just like you said earlier with flag football, your whole offense is different. Your whole defense is different. You come up with trick plays and then, at the end of the day, you really only have 2 or 3 seconds to get rid of the ball. So it's very fast paced. Yeah. You don't get open, and then plus they shorten the field. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you only have 2 or 3 downs or whatever to go
to get 20 yards, something like that. Yeah, right.
Something like that. I don't know for sure what the rules are. But at the end of the day, they're still athletes, and, it gives them a chance. Look, we all have egos. And so for him to come out and say he would be better than Patrick Mahomes, he very well could be at flag football.
At flag football, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he needs to kind of cut it back a little bit from that.
Pump the brakes on the whole, hey, I'm better than you.
I mean, the Olympics have changed so much. Why not add them?
Yeah,
and just see how it goes.
I will say this: I'm a big fan of women competing in flag football. I mean, and we're seeing that now a lot at our high schools, a lot of the area high schools, because there are a lot of females that want to get into the game, and from a cost standpoint, it's tough, to put pads on everybody, this, that, and the other. But I think flag football is definitely a good alternative. And you're seeing now, like the Georgia High School Association, for example, implementing girls flag football championships into the actual state football championships down at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So I think things like that are neat because it is further getting the sport out there, especially, when we're talking about traditional American football. Even though flag football is a little bit different, it's still kind of a form of American football, especially with the girls getting involved. So I have no problem with it there. But going back to your point a little bit earlier, I do wonder on the men's side and from the Olympic standpoint and all the initiatives that the NFL has going on, how much of a hand Roger Goodell has in this. And, you got to wonder if there's another, level to all of this fandom with flag football that is going on there.
Well, and you just said it, with Roger Goodell. Going back to the girls, though, I tell you what, I've watched several of those on TV. Score Atlanta, IJ Rosenberg, and those guys. They do a great job of covering that. Those girls are athletes.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
It's a lot of fun to watch, and I'm glad that they have the opportunity to be able to do that. Olivia, my daughter, played 1 year.
Okay,
and those girls were intense.
Yeah.
And, so it was a lot of fun. But getting back to Roger, again, I know I come on here. I don't want to, have it turn into a bash Roger Goodell type of thing. But
hot takes, hot mics, baby, man. That's what it's all about right here.
Well, but the thing about it is if money's involved and money can be made, and there's an angle that he can get the NFL involved, he's going to.
Right.
But now, at the end of the day, as we said earlier, he's going to have conversations with owners, with GMs, because Josh Allen making $55 million a year, and Joe Burrows actually came out and said, I'd love to play in the Olympics, and I kind of feel I've been getting the sense with Joe Burrows is that his leash is a little bit shortened. I don't think because he plays on a bad team. Right, that he just doesn't love the game anymore, and and who would getting the crap beat out of him every Sunday,
leading the league, get hit.
But noticing him come out and say that, so I'm sure Roger's going to have those conversations, and it's just one of those things that'll play out. Probably not the first Olympics that'll have pro players in there or the NFL guys. But if they can finagle a way and find a way to manipulate the system, I think Roger Goodell is probably the guy to do it.
Right. And I love it. And that was an interesting take. And for those that may just be joining us this week that didn't hear last week, definitely some strong opinions, of course, about Roger Goodell and the care or maybe lack thereof of former players, because you're one of those guys, as we've talked about. I mean, nowhere else on the dial are you going to hear the perspectives that you're going to get right here. John Davis, again, a former Buffalo Bill, spent a lot of years in the league, has been around the sport. He's bringing a unique perspective that a lot of us, casual sports fans, we just don't have. We never, we didn't make it to that level. So, again, a lot of, inside information and so forth right here. And we were going back to kind of that conversation, too, last week about, just some of the way that people feel about the NFL, about Roger Goodell. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I believe you came out and said, you felt like in some ways it was very corrupt, the league itself. So again, there's a lot of different things here that a lot of people on the surface just don't see.
Yeah, and I think at the end, the thing about and I love it as well because I'm a sports fan. When football comes on at 1 o'clock on Sunday, that gives everybody like a 3-hour release.
Right.
That all they have to think about is the Falcons or the Packers or the Raiders or, that's their outlet to be able to watch that. They don't see at the end of the person's career, and I'll give you a quick example. I went up to Buffalo probably 2 or 3 years after I retired. And, I was beat up. I mean, and they misdiagnosed some things. And I go and have an appointment with one of the Bills' doctors, and I walk in and I'm limping and I can't lift my shoulder. And doctor looks at me and he says, "Dude, you look pretty good. Why are you even here? Because just look." And I'm like, really.
Are you sure?
I can't bend over. I can't sit down without help.
Who's signing your paycheck?
That's where I get frustrated. And that's where I get frustrated because of the other players are probably going through much worse than I am. I consider myself lucky, but still we went through it. And so I just think there's a point in time to where and I think they are getting better. I just, it's just irritating because all of us had to go through it in order for them now to take care of these kids today, which we're happy for.
Right.
But, a lot of us paid the price and whether medically, financially, you name it, mentally,
right.
It took a toll on a lot of us, and a lot of the fans don't see that unless I have a chance to talk to you, or unless I go out and do a speaking engagement, and it kind of brings a level of personability or whatever the word might be to where they can say, "Oh, you know what? We never even thought about that." And now I understand why you have to have help sitting down or getting upstairs, and once I have noticed that once the fans start to understand that and they see that on a personal level, they understand it a lot better, and they appreciate it a lot better.
Right, absolutely. Very interesting takes right here. Comments again from big man John Davis, once again bringing it right here on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. Hey, we're up against our second break. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. We'll dive into some other things towards the tail end of the show. We'll talk about our favorite sports moments from the weekend. All that and much more straight ahead right here on this edition of the Morning Rant. We are the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Loose, recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
Big opinions of the big games from the big mouths.
Man, I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's the Morning Rant on WPGY, the Sports Pig, North Georgia's home for ESPN Radio.
Sit down.
Back here on a Monday. Appreciate you guys being with us till 11 o'clock this morning. Dave Garner, John Davis in with you, and appreciate you guys listening. We are the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia. We're also the home of NASCAR. You can hear every Cup race right here on the Sports Pig. You can download it on the Sports Pig app or online at sportspigradio.com. And speaking of yesterday, Darlington, it was Tyler Reddick getting it done in the Goodyear 400 yesterday in a race you heard right here on the Sports Pig. We were getting wrapped up yesterday at the Wing and Rock Fest, and I caught the tail end of that race yesterday. Brad Keselowski finishing second, Ryan Blaney third, Chad Hocevar fourth, and Austin Cindric rounding out your top five there in the Goodyear 400. Good to see them back on some of the southern tracks a little bit more. I know I've kind of thrown some shade at NASCAR. We talked about it a little bit, John, of course, last week about taking sports overseas, doing different things, to try to boost the brands and stuff. And I kind of hate that. I felt like NASCAR kind of got away from their roots a little bit, with some of the southern tracks. But, good to see places like Darlington and some of those folks getting some races back. I know at one time, Atlanta, they were only down to one race, but now they brought the second race back to Atlanta. So good to see, man. I mean, me personally. Now, other people may have a different opinion, but I like when sports kind of return to the roots.
Well, and I think it goes back to, we were talking about the NFL overseas as well. Some sports are made for America. Some sports are made to stay here. And I just think with the roots that NASCAR has, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know a lot of about it. I love listening to the bootleggers back in the 30s, 40s,
yes,
and 50s.
Absolutely.
Transporting the moonshine and everything. But NASCAR is Southern. And I've got two good friends, Bill Fincher and Wally Cloud. Wally's passed now. But they used to go to all the races in South or in the Southeast, even the dirt tracks. And I was just like,
love it.
I never understood. And Wally would tell me, you don't understand until you go
right
and see it. And I was just like, you know what? He's exactly right. And, and one of these days, I'm going to get out there and be able to do that and go to a race because athletes, respect athletes.
Right.
And that's not an easy sport. So I would love to be able to go to a race and just see how they can do the, 3-4 hours. I just got to imagine it's just as grueling as a 60-minute football game.
Oh yeah, I remember all those guys doing the Indy Daytona or the Indy Charlotte double. Running the Brickyard, or running the Indianapolis 500 in an open wheel car, and then turn around like Tony Stewart did, and then turn around and jump in a NASCAR for the longest race of the year in the Charlotte 600-mile Coca-Cola event or what have you. The 1,100 miles there in one day type things. I grew up at the Dixie Speedway. I mean, I grew up at dirt track racing. I was always a big fan, a huge NASCAR fan through the late 90s, early 2000s. I was a big Bobby Labonte fan, man. I just kind of latched on to him, had the opportunity to meet him a few times, man. Just super nice guy. Was really kind of, woven into NASCAR for a good little while. And I think after Earnhardt passed away and some of the other traditional drivers that I had cheered for started retiring and getting out of the sport, I lost a little bit of interest there. But, we've got some local guys here. I mean, obviously Chase Elliott just over the way in Dawsonville. We've got our very own Tyler Smith here in Talking Rock. Chandler Smith, not Tyler Smith. I know a Tyler Smith. Chandler Smith here in Talking Rock that's leading the truck series, So, I mean, we do have some local guys here that have kind of piqued my interest again into NASCAR. And, of course, we are the home for every cup race right here on the Sports Pig. Hey, guys, we're also the new North Georgia home of the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves, again, with opening day on Friday. We talked about what this roster might look like opening day. Didier Fuentes, indeed making the I say rotation. He's in the bullpen. But the young 20-year-old arm there that has not allowed a run in spring training and his multiple outings there has definitely flashed enough. So, again, Alex Anthopoulos and the Atlanta Braves keeping Didier Fuentes there in the opening roster. And they may need him because they're going to need some arms in that bullpen, and hopefully he'll flash a little bit. Again, we were talking earlier about the Fanatics flag football tournament in the opening segment there. And, of course, March Madness. A lot of things going on from the weekend as we talk about our favorite moments.
Time to hang it in the Louvre.
Oh, this looks nice.
Our favorite moments from the week in sports here on the Morning Rant.
All right, so again, favorite moments from the weekend. Again, brought to you by your friends at Foundation Wealth in Dalton. And John, I'm going to let you go first. Anything stick out to you over the weekend?
Well, it's all about March Madness with me.
Yep.
And being able to watch it. It's just I've been staying up until 1 o'clock in the morning watching the final game.
Haven't we all, man? Oh.
Just watching them and seeing these great. I love watching the players and compete and everything. But I'm also loving the coaching.
Yeah.
I'm loving the Tom Izzos, the Barnes at Tennessee,
right?
Sampson at Houston, and you have to give them credit. What's his name at UConn? Hurley. Watching him and compete with UCLA last night. But I love to see those old school guys come in.
Oh yeah,
and they made a very good comment. I believe the media had been on them a little bit, and you might be able to say a little bit more. But they were talking about how especially the UCLA coach and Hurley, about yelling at the kids and doing all that. And they were getting a bad rap. Some of the media was giving them a bad rap, and they said, "No, you know what? It's actually called? It's called coaching."
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So we've become so soft lately that even the fans are being upset because their kids are getting yelled at.
Yeah,
and it's just like, look, if they would have heard what we were called 40 years ago,
absolutely,
they would. they wouldn't know what to do.
Oh yeah, no,
And, and these guys love their kids. They love the players, but they're going to coach them.
Oh yeah,
they're there to win, and they promise their kid, "You're going to come to school here. I'm going to give you every chance to get your degree, but we're also going to play for championships. But that also means you're going to do what I tell you to."
Right? Yeah,
and that's what happens.
And that's exactly what happens. Yeah.
Some players can take it, and some players can.
Yep.
And usually, not all the time, but usually the ones who keep transferring everywhere,
right?
Those are the ones that are trying to find that coach that's going to kind of love them a little bit.
Oh yeah,
kind of coddle them.
Right.
And these guys today, that's why I love it. These are old school guys. Tom Izzo's as old school as you can get.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, I love Izzo. Yeah. Well, I remember growing up, like you said, I mean, your coach would, grab your face mask and yank you, and just chew you out, and say a few choice words and, and for missing the pitch man on an option play or not, following your contain lane down on a kickoff or whatever. And that's the way it was. And then, a lot of the kids.
But if I could say this, what they don't see is 15 minutes later or after practice, the coach comes up and gives you a hug.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So they don't see that.
They don't always see that. Yeah, you're right.
They see the bad part, but you're exactly right.
They definitely do. Yeah. March Madness again going on right now. I will say this, and not to boast, but my bracket, now Florida getting beat last night, I think hurt pretty much about everybody. I mean, I don't know if anybody much had Iowa beating Florida. I've got 13 of the 16 Sweet 16s picked correctly as of right now. I had Virginia over Tennessee. Tennessee, of course, won that one right there, and then Florida losing last night. I had picked an upset in the first round that just didn't pan out, so I was already out one team, but 13-16, hey, I'll take it. I think last year I was 14-16, I think, so I'm one game behind where I was at. But right now, basically, my entire Final 8 -1 Elite 8 is still intact. And if you're playing the ESPN Fantasy, you know that they tier the points. So if you pick the national champ, I mean, you're pretty much going to win your bracket, right? It doesn't even really matter so much what you do in the first and second round, as long as who you got winning it all, and your Final Four is still pretty much intact. Which, for the most part, mine is. I mean, my Elite 8 -1, Final Four is still in it. I've got Houston winning the whole thing. I don't know how that's going to go, but the Cougars are looking pretty good so far. But, yeah, a lot of people – and we'll talk about this later in the week. But, yeah, my Texas pick came true, man. I had a couple that didn't, but I picked Texas in the Sweet 16 to get it done over Gonzaga, and they did. So that was huge for me. So I definitely hit on a few. A couple I didn't, but I definitely hit on a few. So that was my favorite moment, I think, from the weekend, is watching some of those picks hit. And certainly some of those like buzzer beater nail biters, like St. John's, Kansas yesterday. I picked St. John's. They win at the buzzer over the Jayhawks. That was another big moment right there. So, yeah, a lot of fun. I'm like you, partner, man. The thing that stands out, I mean, how could it not be March Madness this time of year? So.
Well, I think I'm going to start getting away from the Blue Bloods. Like I said, my Final Four is very predictable. I did lose Virginia, so yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. So that's any indication for people to take my advice. That should be it right there. But I've got 3 of my 4 finals left in there. So, but it's great basketball, and I think next weekend's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do too. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on. Again, Sweet 16 action resumes on Thursday and Friday. Again, this next weekend we'll shape up the Final Four for us, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the week. We got Big John Davis in here with us. We ain't worried about talking about basketball and all that other stuff right here. We've got football news going on, and we're going to talk more about it in our next segment as well. But during the last break, you were showing me the article there, and I thought it was interesting for those of you that are watching on YouTube or what have you. You can see it, the rest of you can't, but you still got that thing sitting there. Hold that thing up right here. It is the technique, which now educate me, because I grew up a tech fan, like we talked about. The technique, I guess, was that the school paper? That was
That
the
is
school.
the school newspaper.
Okay,
and that
all right.
came out the very next week after we beat Georgia in 1984.
And so, for those of you that can't see it, there's on the cover of the student newspaper there, the Technique. It's a big picture of John Davis in the Georgia Tech, the old 65, holding up the number 1 right there. And the caption is "To hell with Georgia." So again, and standing right next to Ted Roof too, I believe. Was that Ted Roof?
Oh,
you
yeah.
standing next to?
My good buddy Ted Roof. And that in my hand is actually a piece of the hedge that the police tried to take out of my hand.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Unsuccessfully.
It did look like you were kind of holding something there too. So that's funny.
And we've got it downstairs in my wife's office in a frame. So
I love it.
So that was a lot of great memories over there for that game.
You know, I'm one of these people, and we'll talk about this more on the other side of the break too. I grew up a Tech fan. You know, my stepson just graduated from UGA. I've got a lot of Georgia fans in my family. So I'm not one of these people that like hates one way or the other. So maybe I'm not a true fan. I get it. You can dog on me all you want to out there. But again, I don't really have a hatred for both. But I still very much cheer for the Jackets, of course. And man, I really am a state of Georgia guy. I love Georgia Southern. I've got a stepdaughter maybe going there next fall. I spent some time down in Statesboro myself. I cheer for. Man, I cheer from everyone from Berry College to Kennesaw State, you name it, man. I love our Atlanta and our Georgia teams, and so, hey, that's where my fandom's at.
Well, I'll tell you one quick story before we go. There's a great football player at the University of Georgia back in the early 80s, won the national championship, named Knox Culpepper. Great guy, Great linebacker, just a solid, out of Lovett. And I used to be in the flooring business, commercial flooring business, and he would give me business, and we would go out to lunch and talk about old times and stuff. And I just asked him. Now, I'm one of these guys. I don't want to make any fans on our show mad because and I'll explain in just a second. But I asked him, I said, Knox, do you hate Tech as bad as I hate Georgia? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, that's all I wanted to know. That's all I needed to know. I've got people coming to me that says they love Georgia Tech except for one day. And I'm like, no, it can't work that way.
It can't work that way. I know. You gotta choose, man. You gotta choose.
And I've got so much history with the recruiting and stuff with Georgia, all through high school and everything that, it's just, and I'll talk to Coach Curry about it every once in a while too. Now, Coach Curry has to be a little bit more diplomatic than I do because of his stature and everything and who he is. But, I'm 60 years old and I just, I think about beating those guys 365 days a year. That's my number one goal.
Well, you have, and like we said, you have such a unique perspective, really about a lot of things, but even from recruitment. And I do want to talk about that in the next segment, by the way, because you had touched on some NIL and some stuff earlier there as well, as far as the recruitment when we were kind of talking about, flag football and things like that. So we'll come back to that in this next segment. So don't go away. We're going to hit our final break, and then we'll come right back. We'll finish up today's Monday morning quarterback segment of the Morning Rant right here with Big John Davis. Stay with us. Again, you're listening to the Sports Pig. We are the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Loose, recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
From the buzzer beaters to the big hits. If it's making noise in the world of sports, we've got something to say about it. This is Now That's What I'm Talking About.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your all-access pass to the hottest takes in the world of sports.
And welcome back to the program right here again. Now that's what I'm talking about. Brought to you by our friends at the Pub in Ellijay. Once again, a lot of things going on there at the pub. Open until 2 a.m. on the weekends. Again, they've got a Wednesday Winging It wing special. $1 wings. We're going to talk about that more on Wednesday with Big John Davis. Again, he will be back on Wednesday. We will have our Memory Lane with the Refrigerator Mover segment midweek right here on the Morning Rant. Hey, we appreciate you guys being back with us right here on a Monday. Thanks for joining us. We were talking before the break about NIL and recruitment, and you bring a very unique perspective, John, to this topic because you were recruited, obviously, out of high school by a lot of different teams. I know you've kind of talked about your choices and how it was narrowed down, but kind of let people know exactly what that looked like for you, that whole process. And then, obviously you're following now. You see everything that's going on with NIL. You see everything that's going on with the recruiting process. Talk about then versus now, and first off, what it looked like for you coming out of high school.
Well, let me just say this. NIL back then was under the table.
Yeah. I guess it kind of existed. It kind of existed, just not, legally, publicly.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, but yeah, it's just changed a lot. The whole recruiting thing. Even when my son Harrison and John Henry went through it, I couldn't believe how much it had changed over the years. But 40 plus years ago, I had said earlier, probably during my senior season, mom and dad probably had 10 to 15 schools a week in their restaurant. And so bringing flowers, bringing all sorts of things.
Oh, yeah.
You got to butter up the parents, and that's right. Understandable. But that 3-year process for me was probably one of the toughest things that I ever went through because I didn't know what I was doing. And to be honest and to be fair with my parents, they didn't know
right.
what was going on.
Right.
Thankfully I had my principal, Lex Rainey, who kind of held everything down and in place for me to help me make the right decisions or at least lead me in the right path.
Sure. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And then, of course, you come to signing day and you have to make the decision. And as you know, Georgia's huge, or Montgomery County is huge, Georgia Bulldog town.
Okay,
and
right.
You're not going to make them happy.
Yeah.
And, they can say they're happy for you, but they're not.
Exactly.
They invested a lot of time in me as well. They took me to games and, nobody was really taking me to Georgia Tech games, but they were always taking me to Athens.
Right.
And then, I just, as we've talked about, and we'll talk about it more, I made the right decision because, ultimately, one was Bill Curry, and two, I wanted to play in the NFL. And Vince Dooley, and again, we'll talk about it, and I'll go in depth. Vince Dooley came into my house the week before signing day and said that I might get to play as a senior or a redshirt senior.
Yeah.
Well, imagine being told that.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then, I could tell the coaches, the assistants that were over there, their head just kind of fell down because they're like, you don't say,
right.
That's the one thing.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that. Yeah.
I found out years later, they asked Vince Dooley about the recruiting process over the years, and he did come out and say that his two biggest mistakes and the two people that he didn't get that he wanted was Gary Lee out of South Georgia, the wide receiver, and me.
How about that?
So
wow.
That made me feel,
That's a compliment right there. Yeah.
I think so.
Well, especially when you look at how, everything ended up. I mean, obviously you go back as a 2-time All-American, and that's an easy one to go back and say, you know what, man, I wish I'd have maybe approached that one a little differently. But I can't imagine, Vince Dooley or whoever, Bill Curry sitting in your living room talking to your parents, for the most part, families, unless they've had other kids that have gone through that process, I just can't imagine what that's like for them to be sitting in that situation and not really knowing what's going on. And you did have Lex. You had different folks in the community who I've gotten to know. Obviously, Mr. Rainey over the years is a fantastic individual. Was superintendent, of course, of schools later on, but in Gilmer County. But yeah, I mean, but I'm sure that process had to just be crazy. And I think you had mentioned to me too that Tennessee was honestly a kind of a finalist, I guess, in your decision making.
Well, at the end of the day, well, getting back to my parents, they were, understandably so, they were starstruck as well. Now, Dave, you got to remember, for 2 years, they had coaches in their restaurant nonstop.
Yeah,
and
right.
Bringing them gifts, bringing them stuff,
yeah.
and everything. So you have to wonder what was going on in their mind, because they're feeling a lot of love as well.
Right.
So it was just, and I know it had to be hard on them as well. As I've gotten older and looking back on it, I just feel like, it was a little bit harder on them than I probably realized at the time. Because, when you're 17 years old, all I wanted to do is play basketball. I was tired of recruiting. I wanted to be with my friends. But I've got to deal with all of this, which is reality. Yeah. And so that's the way it happened. And I forgot your next question. I apologize.
Well, I was just going to say, I know Tennessee was a fine. I mean, you had some other schools you were definitely looking at.
So at the end of the day, Tennessee was my second choice. They offered. They didn't offer me anything, but I just thought it's the same as Bill Curry. Johnny Major says, "Look, son, we're going to give you a chance to play. That's all I'm going to sit here and tell you."
Sure.
And for me, that's all I could ask for. But I didn't need somebody coming in and saying, "Oh, you're going to be on the team for 4 years, but then you might get to play your senior year."
Right, exactly.
And so that just because we're all competitors.
Sure.
And I'm not one to have ever in my life sat on a bench.
Right.
Of course, until I got to Houston, where I had to spend 2 years on the bench.
Sure.
Which, I think took more out of me than anything else.
Right.
We rectified that in Buffalo, but I love Tennessee. I love Tennessee today. I can't wait for the game this year. I met some guys actually. About 10 or 15 people down in the BVIs a couple weeks ago that are huge Tennessee fans.
Yeah, I think you were telling me about that. That's awesome.
And they're coming to the game, so I'm going to try to treat them to get them a beer and some barbecue, and wish them luck. And,
I love it.
A little friendly competition.
Absolutely, a little home and home this year with Georgia Tech and Tennessee over the next couple seasons there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And we were talking about, of course, the whole process, and obviously here at the Sports Pig. Ironically, we are the home of Tennessee and Georgia Tech football in the fall. We do play both of them. Of course, we have Georgia football over on the Pulse, and so we've got ties to really all the schools that we've talked about here in this last segment. But, of course, excited to have Big John Davis with us on right here, a former two-time All-American at Georgia Tech. Again, my co-host right here on the Morning Rant here on this Monday morning quarterback edition. And, we've got just a couple minutes here left. But, again, kind of bringing it back now, and a lot of these kids, no one wants to hear you might play your senior year. That's why I think a lot of these kids sometimes go smaller because they want to play. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody wants to go into college after a successful high school career just to sit the bench with a chance that they might play their senior year, right? So, again, these kids want to play, and so it makes you wonder, the different recruiting that's being told, by certain people. But quickly, today's recruiting, I mean, has it changed? Is the conversation still the same? What are these coaches now that are going into these rooms like they did back in your day, sitting in front of your parents, and what they're telling you? What are they telling these kids nowadays with the NIL, with the portal, with all the stuff, the landscape now that has become today's college football? What does that look like in the remaining 2 minutes we got here?
Well, there is a lot of negotiations going on. We do know that. It's well known that we negotiated with a petty kid up in Buford. And
talking specifically about Georgia Tech. I guess, right,
and, when you have to start negotiating with 18-year-olds, I have a real problem with that. But it's reality.
For obvious
Coach
reasons,
Curry told me, he said, get used to it. That's the way it's going to be. One thing that, my buddy Warren and I always talk about and also talking with Grant Key, what's happened with recruiting is that used to you could recruit a kid to come to school.
Yeah.
And you would 99% of the time going to have him for 4 or 5 years.
Right.
That's changed.
Yeah.
All these schools now have their own departments just for transfer portal.
Wow.
And they have their own department for the NIL.
Right.
And so instead of recruiting one class at a time, you're having to recruit every year. You're having not only to recruit new players, but now you're having to go out and recruit transfer players, portal players, and you're having to recruit the kids that are on your team to stay on your team.
Wow.
And can you imagine? And that's why I think you saw people like Nick Saban get out, and maybe the Oklahoma students.
I think that's
I think
that's a lot of it,
because they're just like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
And they just don't have to.
Yeah.
But I know it's hard, and I'm going to be able to see Brent in a couple of weeks and just talk to him a little bit off the camera and ask him how it's going. But he's got it all set up, man. He knows who's out there. And he knows the money that he has, and it's well. That's why they call their assistants GMs and operations and stuff, because that's exactly what they are.
We talked about that college being the new pro, basically, of the way that they now have organization general managers and so forth. Hey, we're out of time today, John. Man, thanks for bringing it today. As always, partner. We'll see you again on Wednesday. Yes, sir. That's going to wrap things up for this edition, this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant, Monday through Friday, right here on the Sports Pig, on the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia, on the Sports Pig app, and online at sportspigradio.com. Chuck Oliver up next here in just a few short seconds. And until tomorrow, as we always say, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. We'll see you tomorrow.